Hi, and welcome to the Spring 2021 update of PhoenixCommand.net. PhoenixCommand.net isn't a game, it's a tool to help you run a Phoenix Command game. So it assumes you have some knowledge of it, the game, and how to play, maybe some of the rules. Whether the basic rules or advanced, there's a lot of material in the game and in all the supplements. And so if you've played it or if you at least looked at it, you know there's just tons and tons of charts and tables and data and a lot of looking things up and cross tabulation. And it's really not something that people play too much anymore, but I think they should. And so I invented this tool to help you use the cool parts of Phoenix Command in maybe your miniatures game or resolving shooting actions with your army men or something like that. And so it's really meant as a using on your phone as kind of a mobile app with a miniatures game just to resolve some of the basic things like shooting and that's basically it. And also time, like resolving time. And so I'll show you how to use it. Again, it assumes you kind of know how to play Phoenix Command, but I'll explain a little bit of the basics as I go. So as it stands right now in this update, there's maybe 2 or 3 dozen weapons that are supported. I'm adding more all the time as I'm able, but really I've got a list of representative, shotguns and assault rifles and machine guns and explosives, and I'll show you the list here. If you come to the main page, you can send me questions or comments, but there's also a list of supported weapons. If you click on that, you'll just get everything I've added so far. It's not everything by any means, but it's a lot of the really popular guns that you might be interested in using. I've also thrown in a couple that are not in the main core book, the Small Arms Combat System book, like the M9A1 Bazooka and the M1 Garand. That's just so you can simulate a World War II game if you want. I've also thrown in, an AR-15 for more modern weapons, and the AR is so popular that you might want to use that in the game. There's some explosives like hand grenades, mortars, and artillery. Now, with these, I've kind of modified them a bit from the rules because, as you may know, each kind of weapon kind of is its own system. And so instead of just re-implementing a whole new artillery system, although it's cool and it requires the use of forward observers and other sort of mechanisms, I've really just kind of shoehorned it into the existing explosive system. And I think that's good enough for now, especially since no one plays this. It's really just me. So it's here, you can use it, but it's got all the penetration and damage types for the shells used by, this M114. But anyway, it's just keep in mind the mortars and artillery are a little bit watered down. Anyway, to get started, come back to the main page here, and you do need a Google account to use this. I might add different authentication in the future, but for now, you just need to log in with a Google. It's just a simple sign in. It's super easy. I'm already signed in here, but I can sign out or sign in with this. You'll probably want to create a new game to start. You really have to create a new game and add characters and players to that game in order to use the calculator. So I'll just make a new game here. Here's all my information, nothing too private, don't spam me. But if I want to create a new game, I can give it a name here, whatever I want. I can also invite players. It's a little clunky right now, but if you have other people that you want to play with, they also have to sign in, and they just send you this ID, this giant ID here, and you just put it in here separated by commas. There'll be a better way to do this at some point, but for now, that's how you do it. There's no one really playing this again, so it's what it is. If you click generate name, you'll get a random operation name, which I think is pretty cool. So, hey, Operation Unleashed Hawk sounds perfect. Click create. Perfect. All right. So once you create this, you can come up here and you'll get a list of all the games you've created. You're the admin for those games, so you can do some special stuff like delete it and advance the game time, that sort of thing. You can also see games you've joined. So these are games that I've had other people make and join me to, just kind of in testing. But here's Operation Unleashed Hawk. So we'll come in here and you'll see that I've got the operation name at the top. You can always click this to get back to this game page here. But we're at phase 1, impulse 1. Phoenix Command goes in phases and impulses. So a phase is 2 seconds long, and there are 4 impulses per phase. And so as an admin, as the creator of this game, you can advance through the time 1 impulse at a time. There's also some other ways to control the clock that I'll show you. But here I'm the only user. This is me. I've got 1 character slot. It's empty right now. If I can delete the game. This is only available to admin, but we're not going to delete that right now. That'd be silly. I'm trying to show you how to use it. Click create new character and you'll get a character creation screen. You can fill all this stuff in yourself, give them a code name, skill level. Again, this requires some knowledge of how to play. So you have to know kind of what strength is and intelligence, what the trade-offs for all these things are, and what the skill levels are. So let's just click random. All right. Code name Michael Moss. Cool. Skill level 5. That's pretty decent. It goes up to 20, but really it's really kind of meant for skill levels 1 through, let's say, 9. And then anything above that is kind of superhuman. So strength, intelligence, will, 6 health, agility. Okay, and those things all affect how many combat actions I get per impulse, and you'll see that. I can give him some armor here. Let's give him some light flexible, some equipment. And this is really just to kind of do encumbrance. Each of these things, these are just straight out of the book, and these things have a weight associated with them. So as you add more weapons and equipment here, it's going to slow you down. You'll get fewer combat actions. But let's just do a set of binoculars. And for weapons, again, you have to kind of know what these weapons are. But if you're playing Phoenix Command, you probably do. I'm going to give him this, an FN MK1, and then also just an AR-15. How about that? That sounds cool. Click create. All right, success. Now if we come back to Operation Unleashed Hawk, you'll see there's my character. I can delete him. That belongs to me. All your users in this game are able to delete their own characters. If I click on here on the name, it comes into the character sheet. So here are all the things that I generated, and then also a few derived attributes like movement. These are hexes per phase. You can see his agility, and he's kind of way down, so he only gets to move 2 hexes per phase. And then he gets 5 combat actions. That's pretty good. His knockout value is 15. And then the rest of this stuff down here is really just for tracking purposes. It doesn't really do anything other than kind of keep track. And this is all gets saved in the database as you change these, so it's all persistent. So I can change the cover and firing stance. So if you are using this with miniatures, you can remember what stance and firing position or position your guys in. So that's the basics of the stats. If I come over to weapons, I get a nice little list of the weapons that I gave him and some of the basic stats, not all the stats from the game, just kind of what's useful here. One thing that might be helpful to know on here is the sustained automatic burst. That's not listed on here. Oh, no, it is. I put it on there just now. Just recently. Sustained auto burst. Perfect. And then some of the aim times and aim time mods to give you a sense of what kind of shot accuracy you're going to be getting. And then you can change the ammo type here. And that's, again, you're going to have to kind of keep track of what your character is carrying with them in the game, but this is just to switch out. And if you ever, it does keep track of the number of rounds fired, and you'll have to come back in here and reload whenever you're empty. And that's by design. It's to kind of enforce the reload mechanism and just give you a little bit of a penalty here to have to come back and reload. Now, if I come into gear, I can respec him as far as weapons and equipment go. I can change anything out here. So if I uncheck and give him, or I can just like say, give him an Uzi or change his armor. Sorry, you lost your armor. Loadout updated. And now if we come back in and look at the character again, you have to reload the character. Yeah, now he's got this and an Uzi and the AR-15. So lost some armor, gained an Uzi. If you come over to actions, this is straight out of the book as well. Just a list of standard actions and then the number of combat actions that it takes to perform them. Now, here, each of these actions, it tells you what they are. So you can just look at this as reference to know, like, oh, I want to look over cover. That only takes one combat action. So, if I come back in here, oh, if I'm on, you see I added an Uzi, so he lost a combat action on Impulse 1. So to look over cover, you're going to have to spend an entire impulse to do that. You can just remember that, or you can click on this button and it will set a timer for you. All right. So that's, he had one combat action available, this impulse, so it immediately did it. But if it were to be, say, like break and clear glass from a window, it's timer set for phase 2, impulse 2. So as the admin for the game advances the clock, when it hits that time, it'll give each player their reminder for what they set. Now, there are other ways to set timers. So if you come into tools and look at set timer, you can set timer by combat action. So again, you're going to have to import a character here to make this part work. So we'll import Michael Mass. And so you have to switch it, make sure you're on the game that you're playing, import the character, and it'll bring in the correct number of combat actions. And so you can just set it here. So if there's something not on that list, you can, that, say costs 5 combat actions and read a newspaper, for half a second. Set timer sets it for the right time. So you can add one manually here. You can also set a timer by the time. So this is like a specific time in the future. So if I want something to remind me at, say, phase 4, impulse 2, done reading newspaper, set timer, cool. Or you can set a timer by duration. And this is kind of in the incapacitation time format from the book. So D equals days, H equals hours, M equals minutes, P equals phase. So like 2M for 2 minutes, or you could do like 1H for 1 hour. Check this out. Set for phase 1801. Cool. All right. So that's the timers. May or may not be useful in your game. You might just kind of wing it and keep track of it in your head, or you might set these occasionally. Let's see. Medical aid. So there's no damage on this character yet, but as he accrues damage, you can come in here and apply aid, and it'll tell you exactly what the recovery needed is, and maybe we'll wound him here and then come back and do this. This is also on the calculator shot page, and it'll give you this same view, but for the targets that they're shooting at. So speaking of the calculator, well, let's look at game clock first. So if you're an admin, you can set the game clock. So back in the game page, you saw you could increment it one impulse at a time. That's kind of how you'd probably do it. But if you want to go back in time, like say you made a mistake, you want to go back or jump ahead, like you just want to zoom ahead like 30 seconds or so, you can do it by, you can set it directly. So let's say it's phase 2, impulse 1, boom, boom, read a newspaper. Okay, so the things resolved that were happening on this phase. Now, anything that it skips right over any action set in the future, it skips over any actions that would have resolved if you would have incremented one impulse at a time. That's kind of by design because you don't necessarily want like a million pop-ups showing you everything. If you're skipping ahead, I assume you have a good reason. You can also advance the game clock by actual real world time. So say, you're going for 2 minutes, time change. So if we come back in here, yeah, it's now phase 62 already. That's, a couple minutes in the future. You can also here click next impulse, go 2, 3, 4, phase 3. All right. So that's that. Speaking of actions, you can see a list of all the actions that are set. So if you come into the action list, you can see what time and what the messages were for everything set. We skipped over some of these, but if I were to come back and do phase 2, impulse 2, it'll run this action. So let's just do that. Let's go into game clock and set this for what was it? Phase 2, impulse 2, and it should run that. Boom, breaking clear glass. Time has been changed. All right. Let's see. Let's do the good stuff like the calculator. All right, this is how you fire a weapon. So in the game, you import the character you want to shoot, and it brings in their skill accuracy. It also brings in a list of all their weapons. Okay, so you just choose the weapon you want to fire. Let's do an AR-15. It brings in a list of all the correct shot types appropriate for that weapon. So you can either do AR-15 single shot. You can do a burst, like an Uzi. You've got single shot or burst. So let's do burst here. Things like movement speed, these are required. So if anybody's moving, either the target or the shooter. Now you've got to put in the range in hexes. Now a hex is either 1 inch in miniature scale or 6 feet in real world scale, however you're doing it. So let's just do 8 hexes. And then how much you're going to aim. This is in combat action, so 7 we'll say. Are you in a firing stance? It takes time to get into a firing stance, so if you've done that, you can put true. That'll improve your chances. And whatever position you're in will also improve or degrade your chances. Say you're prone and braced. No, let's say you're standing. Okay. If there's any situational modifiers, like, you're firing a pistol, double action, or you've got a bipod mounted weapon, the visibility makes a big difference in if you can hit the person or not. And then the target size. So if the target's out in the open, don't check anything. If they're looking over cover, use that. If you can only see their head, click that. If they're running or they're in a low crouch, or if you're firing at an inanimate object, you can actually put the diameter in feet right there, and that'll change it. So let's calculate. All right, 98% chance. That was pretty good. Now this is the burst elevation chance, so you can see the effective accuracy level is 26. Got a 98% chance of having your burst weapon at the right elevation. This does not mean that your bullets hit yet. That's part of your arc and number of targets. So let's say we're spraying at 2 targets in an arc size of 2 hexes. Okay, and this is all dependent on your burst size from the weapon and everything. So fire weapon. All right, the target 1 got hit in the forearm. Target 2 was missed. And so now we can choose, all right, did target 1 have cover? No, they did not. And what armor were they wearing on their shin? They had nothing. They had clothing. Calculate damage, 9 points of damage. A little shin flesh wound. No big deal. And here's that same view for medical aid. So if they get no aid, they have a 90% survival chance in 75 hours and fully healed in 25 days. Pretty good. If you can get them first aid in that time, it goes up to 92% and so on. Get them to an aid station. Basically, they're going to live through this. Not a big deal. So that's how you fire a weapon. Let's take a look at, oh, I don't know. Here, let's come out to a different game. I'll switch out games. Go to, yeah, pick one of these characters and see what kind of weapons we've got. Let's do an explosive here real quick. Or a shotgun. No, let's do, no, who do we want? We want Tulsa. Tulsa's going to have a hand grenade or a mortar. Awesome. Yeah, let's do a mortar. All right, we've got 1 round loaded. I can reload now. It's only 1 round. But if we come into tools and calculator, all right, we're in a different game now, so we can import any of those characters. Let's do Tulsa, and let's fire that M26A2 grenade. You see it's an explosive type. All right. Let's say that, yeah, I'm planted square 0, but they're moving at 1, and they're like 20 hexes away. I'm going to aim. It's kind of hard to aim with a hand grenade, but you can. Firing stance true. Calculate. Yeah, 0%. I'm not hitting him. All right, you can come back in here and change this if you want. So let's try 10 for the range. Yeah. So I think I was out of range for a hand grenade, actually. So if I, if it's actually like 14, then that should be like, yeah, 74%. Now here with any, you can always give an optional log note. So this is a good place to put like who you're throwing it at so you can remember in the log, like throwing at David. Fire weapon. Explosive shot hit 1 hex north. Okay, so it's got a scatter. So this is it's shows you what happens the number of hexes away from the explosion. So 1 shot away. So David got hit in the thigh bone with 4 pieces of shrapnel. No armor on his thigh, we'll say. And he was out in the open. Calculate damage. So he took 720 damage right there. Now, if somebody were right on that hex, they're taking 613,000 points of damage and they're knocked out. So that's just how that works. All right. Let's see. Let's fire a shotgun real quick. Let's do calculator. No, Prism has the shotgun. Oh, one thing is too, when you're firing an automatic weapon, here, I'll just show you with the Uzi again. Okay, you've got a 77% chance of hitting. Add the optional log note. Number of targets, we'll do 1. We'll do a minimum arc size of 0.2. Okay, so if I fire that weapon, boom, hit him with 3 bullets. Awesome. I can calculate damage. Took 18 points of damage. Now, I can keep firing without re-aiming, but keep in mind I've got a sustained automatic burst penalty. That's basically your recoil. Every gun is different. So now it's a 62% chance of hitting, and that's just pretty cool, right? Yeah, you missed that time because the recoil on your Uzi was so great that you couldn't keep your shot on target. So something to keep in mind. All right. So let's do, yeah, okay, let's do shotgun real quick. All right, Prism. Hope he's got weapons loaded. We'll see. All right, so shotguns are a little different in that they become a little more accurate when they're like medium range. So especially when you're shooting shot. So here's armor piercing shot. If you're shooting, so this shotgun's a little different. If you're shooting actual shot, it spreads out in a pattern. And so when they're, if they're too far away, you're going to miss. But if they're too close, you're going to miss as well. So shotguns really work kind of like you would expect. So in this case, though, it's a armor piercing slug. So it's not going to behave exactly like that. But let's see. Whoa, no. Nobody's moving, we'll say. But we're like 30 hexes away. And we're going to do a real quick firing from the hip. This is going to be real tricky. 1% chance pattern hitting. Okay. Shotgun blast missed. Okay, to be expected, but that's how shotgun works. If I actually had a shotgun here with some like shot loaded in it, then that pattern would behave correctly. Okay, so what else do we have? Medical aid, we've done that. Game clock, we've set timers, we've done the calculator. Oh yeah, we can see a log now. So here's a log for this game. Let's come back into the game that we made, which was Unleashed Hawk. And if we come in here and look at the log, so you can kind of see a log of everything that's happened. So all those actions that were set, any timer that was set that was resolved. When the timer triggered, it added it to the log. And then whenever you shoot, so here we go, Michael Mass fired an Uzi at 2 targets, 8 hexes away with a 98% chance of hitting. Target 1 hit 1 time, missed target 2. So nice little reminder of what happened. And then hit target 1, shin flesh, here's the damage resolution. And then if you're an admin, you can empty this log. Same with the actions here. So if you go to action list, the admin can delete these actions out of here. So, say like, oh yeah, we don't need this anymore. We're done. We can delete this action. Yeah, it's gone. So that's the basics of Phoenix Command. If you have requests, comments, you want different weapons added, send me a message through the form on the front page, and I'll try and do my best. I hope you enjoy this. I've been working on it for a while, and Phoenix Command, I think, is a fantastic game. I think more people should play it. Hope you do too. All right. Thanks for watching.